Now, creative chaos and a race against time are the key ingredients in a new play about to open in Melbourne and Sydney.
The Government Inspector is on this week in Melbourne, and theatre goers may be surprised to hear the play bears some uncanny similarities to real life. The play's director, Simon Stone, joins us now. Simon, good morning. Nice to see you.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Before we get to those similarities, I'm very pleased to see a production of this. I'm a very big fan of Nikolai Gogol, who's the Russian writer who wrote this play. And, of course, it has a wonderful history. It's a great piece of satire about corruption and inefficiencies in sort of imperial Russia. But these parallels can be found everywhere, can't they?
Absolutely. I suppose it's not so much a version of the Gogol play as it is a version of, I suppose, an autobiographical take on the fact that we were a group of actors who found ourselves all of a sudden without a play to do when the rights fell through on a previous production of the Philadelphia story. We realised that what brought that about was an ominous letter from some lawyers in New York that we received out in the middle of nowhere. And then we thought about doing the Government Inspector, which starts with an ominous letter from St. Petersburg arriving, telling a corrupt town that they're going to be audited. And I suppose we kind of found ourselves audited in that situation. So we thought that we would write both a version of the Gogol story, but also a take on the fact that a group of actors suddenly don't have a play to perform in, and it's 10 days till opening night. So it's, I suppose... So
this is a meta play. It's a play about a situation. It's
a play about a play about a play, which is a very, well-worn path. I suppose Midsummer Night's Dream has a play within a play. Hamlet has a play within a play. It's a delightful thing to do because you watch characters being characters, and the sense of identity chaos becomes really delightful for the audience.
This sort of thing would concentrate anybody's mind. Were the actors up for the challenge? Did they rise to the occasion?
Well, they had plenty of material because they did find themselves in the very situation that they then had to play about 2 months ago when they suddenly... the thing that they were hired for wasn't happening anymore, and they were insecure as to whether or not they were going to be on stage at all or employed for the 2 months. So they're just playing the situation that they actually found themselves in, and it's quite realistic and very funny. A
key part of the original Gogol play, The Government Inspector, is a case of mistaken identity. And does this play out in your version as well?
It does play out. They expect, at the very last minute, they decide to remount an Eastern European production that's kind of been touring the world, kind of a bit like Lion King, but an avant-garde version of The Government Inspector. And they think that they've found a director from St. Petersburg to come and save their bacon, but in fact they mistake an actor who has turned up for an improvisation audition, who goes along with it because he thinks it's his job. It's improv to be a Russian director, and they mistake him for the director, and he proceeds, this unemployed Australian actor proceeds to direct an avant-garde Eastern European production the wrong way, and everything falls apart.
That's very nice.
And at the end they just resort to putting on a musical.
Fantastic. Who's in the play, Simon?
Great actors like Robert Menzies, Greg Stone, Zara Newman and Mitchell Butel, both of whom have been seen on the nation's musical stages, so they're very useful at the end of the production and are very funny all the way through it as well, and a host of other great comedic actors.
I have to ask you though, just going right back to the beginning, what was the problem with getting the rights to the Philadelphia story?
Well, interestingly, the Philadelphia story is billed as being written by Philip Barry. And he died in 1949, and so his work went into public domain in 1999. But his wife was apparently a co-author on it, although never credited and not on any documents that the companies could ever find about this. But suddenly her estate got in contact with us saying that she was an uncredited co-author.
And is she still alive?
No, she died much more recently. She died, so it was her estate that was saying her work is still in copyright.
So the public domain doesn't apply.
Public domain doesn't apply to her. So I wasn't able to rewrite it in the way that I'd like to rewrite text. So suddenly it became and I think by the end of all of the arguments that we had with them, they didn't want us to touch the play either. So we just decided to do a silly play where we just entertain the audience and not worry so much about all the legal disputes.
It's almost sounding like the sort of play that needs to be on at the end of the year, you know, the Christmas play, doesn't it?
Yeah, but it's kind of funny to start the year with the chaos of that play, and it's actually going to be really enjoyable for a Melbourne and a Sydney audience when we get to Sydney to be able to come out from the long summer and enjoy themselves to begin with.
Let's hit it. When's it kick off in Melbourne?
It starts on it starts previewing this Friday and it opens next Wednesday.
Just very, very quickly, you started your life as an actor and now a celebrated director. Is that a better fit for you?
It is a much better fit.
I loved you in Gin Divine.
Thank you
You were
very
great
much.
in Gin Divine.
I was never really made out for all of that anxiety and all of the pressure and vulnerability, which is once again what this play is about.
Oh, well, good preparation. Nice to see you, Simon. Thanks
Nice
so
to
much.
see you too.
Thanks, Simon.
Thank you.